Welcome to Laura Finney Enterprises. She prospers. Purpose, power, and prosperity for women of all ages and all demographics. Today, we are presenting preparation guide for aging well and unforeseen challenges. And this one is very dear to my heart because it does represent women from all ages, especially women in their 20s and 30s who aren't really thinking about the long term. But here's the thing, the long term can become a lot sooner, a lot faster in your future than you would think, simply because life tends to throw us situations that we are sometimes unprepared for. Well, today, ladies, I'm going to try and keep it as simple as possible, but I want to make sure that you're prepared for it. So let's get started. As women, we all have unique needs. And when we do not have a plan for living life on our terms, they can create a huge range of significant challenges for us. So, I'm going to outline some things that are going to reduce that for you. Make sure that you have a pen and paper handy. Take some really good notes, and then I have something fun for you at the end. So, hang with me. What are some of the barriers that we face? Well, it includes health disparities as we get older, and this can happen in our 30s. I've met some young women in their 20s, their late 20s, who are facing health challenges that, 10, 20 years ago, we was hearing about this with women in their 40s and 50s. So health disparities can happen at any given time, especially based on the community that you live in when you need access to really good health care. Our retirement savings, women are known to save a lot less than men for their retirement savings. And then we definitely have a disproportionate share of caregiving responsibilities, right? Depending on how old you are, your mom or your grandmother, you may have seen them take on roles of caregiving. And that's what we did. And that tends to be our role when there's a medical emergency within our families. Now, among the most important implications of longer life is needing to consider how we're going to prepare for and afford more years in retirement, right? That's the fun part. How do we set up a plan to live life on our terms in the future? Well, I call it aging well. As we progress through life, it's crucial to have a high quality plan that's going to allow you to live life on your terms. And today, we're going to address two of those. One is a long term care plan. And I don't mean a long term care policy, although sometimes that should be included, but I'm talking about a plan. How do you want to live your life in the future? And then the other is the documents that we need to have in our possession right now, simply because our family may need them or we may need them when an unexpected emergency happens. Let's look at the long term care plan documents. The first one is care preferences. No matter what age you are, we can all be thrown some sort of health emergency. What would our living arrangements look like for us should that happen to us? I'm going to say yesterday, not put it in your future, but it could happen. It's almost like having car insurance, right? You always prepare for the just in case. And so if you had a healthcare emergency, what sort of living arrangements would you want for yourself? And what type of care would you want? For example, would you want to, sometimes you have to go into a rehab facility for 2 to 3 weeks, or could you afford to have it at your home and be transported to and from? These are just things that you start to think about. What would I want if that came about? And then the other is the financial planning to be able to afford no matter what happens to us in the future, whether it's, a health scare or, a loss of a job. What would that look like? And so we start budgeting for things like that now because one thing that's going to happen that affects your money. And ladies, let me tell you, the one thing I am here to do is save you money and time. So, what would that look like? We all know inflation is a factor. So, you want to be able to save more money every year to ensure that your financial planning is in place. And then, where is that money going to come from? Is it going to come from work? God forbid we have a disability and you end up with some sort of disability. And we both know that disability means a couple of things. Our income is going to shrink and we're going to have out of pocket costs. So, where is that money going to come from? Do you have investment accounts such as IRAs, 401ks, stocks, mutual funds, things like that? Do you have living benefits within insurances? Do you have a savings account or an emergency fund? So these are sort of the things, if you will, we start to think about. I probably need to have a few more buckets to fund my life in the future. And then the other is the legal and medical documentation. We always want to have that financial power of attorney, someone that you trust that can make financial decisions on your behalf, should you be in a position where you're unable to do so. They also can pay your bills if you end up in an emergency situation where you can't do that for yourself. A healthcare proxy, also known, AKA at times a living will, and that is the person that gets to make healthcare decisions on your behalf. Sometimes it's pretty easy to say, oh, my partner or my spouse would do that for me. But if you think about the emotional state of that person at that time, would that be the person who you believe could make the best healthcare decisions, especially if you have a specific lifestyle that you live? Who's the person that you would want to make those decisions on your behalf? Your medical records and doctor's contact information. This is so key today, simply because no matter how old you are, again, God forbid there was some sort of medical emergency, who would your point of contact be to contact these individuals, and where would they find that information? We would also need to include any current medications or previous surgeries or health information that would be deemed relevant today. You may not think it is, but if you had a minor surgery a few years back, that might be something you want to write down on a sheet of paper with your doctor's contact info and any current medications that you're taking. And it can just be a simple one-page document. Hopefully, it's that simple for you. But to have that readily available if you're ever in a situation, and this could be for, your parents or your grandparents, to have this information handy would be key and very helpful in the middle of a medical emergency or healthcare emergency at that time. And then lastly, and most importantly, your healthcare insurance information. Make sure that that's also on that sheet of paper. It makes life so much easier. Again, I go back to auto insurance. You may not need it, but oh my gosh, if you have it, then it would make that situation a lot less stressful. Okay. Now, let's talk about a couple of things that are, I believe, for anyone over age 18. And number one, that's that living will. We talked about the advanced directives for medical care, also known as a healthcare proxy. And we want to be able to dictate how we are treated when we are unable to make medical decisions for ourselves. And then the other, as I said, is the power of attorney. Now, something called a last will and testament is also key because it talks about the distribution of your assets after you pass away, paying debts and other final affairs. Now, let me pause it and just give a quick disclaimer. I am not an attorney. I do not practice. I don't even play one on TV. I just know that there's some basic information that, just like I did, you can Google, but I highly and always recommend talking to a legal professional, simply because your situation is unique to you, your family, and your wishes. So you definitely want to make sure that if you're thinking about doing this and moving forward, which I recommend, you definitely want to have some legal advice there with you. And then lastly are your trusts, revocable and irrevocable. Now, trust can help you avoid, well, not you, but your family, it can help them avoid probate court. Wills, you'll still have to have those distributed in a court of law. Now, with the probate, the revocable trust, that allows you to make changes while you're living. A revocable trust, those are cannot be changed without a court order, right? So those are the two differences between a revocable and irrevocable trust. Everyone should have that. It sort of solidifies everything that is in your will and make sure that things get distributed the way you want them to. Even if you're living, you might want to do something that allows people to, have access to cash and money while they're living. Now, update your insurance policies. Check your beneficiaries. I always say that a beneficiary should never be a child under 18. And then you want to ask yourself, would you give that person a lump sum of money when they're 22, 26, 19? Think about that. Who is also your point of contact to distribute and find this information for you, should there be a situation where it's needed? Now, final expense and travel costs, you know, if someone passed away and they were not in their hometown or state, you would have to pay to have that uh, body transported to the location that you would want at their home. And most people aren't aware of that. So when you're looking at final expense costs, that's something to consider with your insurance company to see if it's available as an option. I highly recommend it. Your investment accounts, again, take a look, update your beneficiaries. Please do not let them be children because it'll hold it. This is where the trust would come in and help distribute funds to whoever the guardian is of a minor for you. But again, definitely talk to an attorney so that it can be designed exactly the way you need it to. Bank accounts. Now, there's a few things about a bank account. In addition to a beneficiary, there's also someone called a signer on the account who can, either write checks and pay bills. And then sometimes there's additional requirements, such as, if you pass away, the beneficiary might be entitled to the funds, but there may also be this little box that happened to a friend of mine in the state of Illinois that was not checked, and it said distribute upon death. And because of that, it required her to have to complete a few more documents and as well as have those documents notarized. So check with your banks, make sure everything is in order. Now, here's the big deal for all of us. All right, I'll probably make your head spin on this one, but we all have this. We need a list of online accounts and passwords that our family can have access to. Most people don't want to put it on pen and paper. A simple Word or Excel document will do. It won't complicate things. But unless your family has access to this entire list, I strongly suggest that you have this. But guess what? I got a surprise for you at the end. So hang here with me. We just have a few more things to go over. All of your online accounts and passwords needs to be accessible. I have almost a 4-page Word document with every account that I have and the password listed because sometimes, let's face it, I have to reset it a lot and I don't like doing that. So let's look at some of our accounts. Our utility bill accounts, subscriptions, and memberships. Now, think about that. Our subscriptions and membership can go from Hulu to gym, to sororities or organizations, memberships to wine clubs, retail memberships at your favorite store, reoccurring memberships, things that just come out automatically. We don't even think about those, right? But I guarantee you, if you look at your bank statement, it'll tell you which ones are reoccurring. And then your credit card accounts. Do you have your login and password information readily available in the event something happens to you? Now, on your bank accounts, all of your bank accounts, from savings account, checkings account, do checking account, do people know how to access that account for you? And that would go through along with your financial power of attorneys. Your social media account logins, all of them. As of now in 2024, we're talking about TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn. The list is unlimited there, but someone needs to be able to access those things when you're no longer here to close those things out. Productivity, work, and email accounts, apps. How many apps do you have on your phone? Let me change that. How many pages of apps do you have on your phone? If you were to swipe left, how many pages would it take to get to the end? I know for me it was 5 the other day, and I thought, oh my gosh, are these really necessary? But the ones that you do use, you want to have those accounts and passwords somewhere where somebody can access those and close those accounts out. Entertainment and media apps, now we watch things like YouTube TV or Hulu on our phones and whatever media accounts, Spotify, those type of accounts. Oh my gosh, the list goes on and on. Payment accounts, your Cash App, Venmo, Zelle accounts, all of those. I know the list is exhausting, right? But all of this here is what it takes to run our lives today. Quite complicated, but we all manage it. And then lastly, travel accounts for all of your hotel companies that you use or airline accounts, travel accounts. That's a lot of accounts, but your family's going to need access to that to close these things out for you, so that they can, one, stop coming in the mail, and two, hopefully won't be billing you during that time. Okay. Now, let's have some fun. What do you want your golden years to look like? And I don't mean when you're in your 60s and 70s, and that could be the goal for you. But for many of my 20 and 30-year-old demographics, they're looking at their golden years in their 40s and 50s. Do you want to kind of hang out and travel or, take up dancing with friends, philanthropy work in your community? Hang out on the beach with some girlfriends or just even just live a very simple but fulfilling life and have some bit of social activity happening there. And you might be like this grandma here who says, "Peace out, I'm out," and just living life on her terms. And then is it family to spend more time with family? We're talking 10, 20 years from now, if that's the goal for you, but you start to design those things now, not later. So there is a little bit of a sense of urgency here with this. Now, what are your next step? Here's my big surprise. I am going to provide to all of you, and you're able to download it, the account and password sheet, questions to ask or be prepared to ask your legal professional. And then the who to call list, create that right along with your password list. Who does your family need to call? What's your doctor's name? What's the hospital you prefer to go to? Any of your real estate agents, if you're in the midst of something, insurance agents, advisors. And remember ICE, that acronym that we're supposed to have in our phone? It stands for in case of emergency. I think that's like a global acronym. If not, put it out there anyway. Many of us know what that means. And then, most importantly, schedule a 15-minute call with me. We'll get on Zoom. I'll answer a lot of your questions that you have, but most importantly, get your questions answered. I'm going to go back to that. I didn't want that to leave so quickly. So go there, scan that. If you are unable to scan it, if you go down here to my website, laurafinneyenterprises.net, and fill out the short form on the page, and we can schedule some time that way as well. So you have two ways to reach out to me. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you for attending the Laura Finney She Prospers series, and I look forward to working with you all in the future.